All right. Welcome to Toya Talks with Booty Podcast. We
Hey,
back, y'all.
we back. We back
Back.
uninterrupted.
Cousin, last week I was so angry. I was so upset. I was so in my feelings that we couldn't do it last week, but we
Oh
definitely tried. But
man, anger was an
this
understatement.
week
Anger
we're in the
was.
building. We're in the building. So,
Mhm.
do you remember what our topic was about? And I'm just sharing this to my actual page so we can,
Yeah. We were going to address or tackle mental men and their mental health. Woo!
So, my question to you before we even
Oh,
get
you
into
just
that
jumped straight in the question.
is, are you ready to be vulnerable? Because I
At
think that it's going to take for you to be vulnerable to have this conversation.
at this point in time in my life, yes.
Okay.
If you would have
But
asked me, if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would have said yeah, and still clammed up. As soon as you asked me to open up, I'd be like, nope, I don't want to do it. So
no, huh?
yeah, so just being able to answer that question for a dude is a milestone.
Yeah.
Just to address
So,
vulnerability.
let's just put some, you know how I am about definitions and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's
Mm-hmm.
define what vulnerability is. Vulnerability is the emotion we experience in times of uncertainty, risk, and an emotional exposure. So I'm like, you have no idea what I'm gonna ask you, but we're gonna go with it. We're gonna see just how vulnerable Dooley is willing to be. Y'all pray for him. Pray for
Please, y'all,
him.
please.
All right, so here is what I want to know. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about shame, guilt, and vulnerability?
Weakness. As a
Okay.
man, first thing, she want me to be weak. She want me to be weak. Or if you're a dude that just had a bad relationship past, you could think she want to know something about me she could use against me if she ever get mad at me. Just I don't know. Just I think as most men, if you hear the word vulnerability and you're not just truly in love with somebody, somebody just met and they want you to be vulnerable to, is something you instantly just stray away from. You can be a pretty open person. It's just that vulnerability sounds like weakness to men, and a man does. You want to be the stand up man for your woman. You don't want to be the weak dude. So
And
you know,
so, do you think that stems from childhood, or like where do you think that comes from?
honestly, it stems from childhood, and I don't even think it stems from childhood. I also think it, just stems from our generation, just our entire race. Honestly, because definitely from my childhood, crying was never okay. I could fall off a bike, scrape both my knees and two of my elbows, and I would walk in the house. My mom would say, "Oh, come here, man, look at some band-aids so I can fix your arms." And then my daddy stick his head out the window and say, "Shut up before I give you something to cry for." Now I'm just sitting here with my knees scraped up, my elbows, and my hand over my mouth because I can't cry. So
I'm laughing, but that's so not okay because I think that has trickled into how men deal with their mental health as adults because you guys were there was not a safe place for y'all to share your vulnerability or your feelings. Y'all don't know what to do with it.
true.
And my question is, if that's the case, is that a dog? If that's
Yeah.
the case, I'm big into energy, right?
Yeah.
I can't help but to think if you never really had a healthy way of dealing with it, what do you do with that? Like, how does that come out? I feel like that all of that is just a bunch of energy that's just going to be balled up, and I honestly feel like it's going to come out in some way, shape, or form.
And most of the times it comes out in a bad way. When you spend your whole life bottling in any and every feeling, when it finally comes time to actually address a feeling, say you could be asking me to open up about something positive. Just because I've got so much built in negative, so much built in confusion, so much happiness, so much sadness, you know, the way I first express my emotions to somebody could not even be how I genuinely feel. It's just a buildup of everything that just comes out. So, that first time addressing your emotions and actually releasing them, it's hard to control it. I don't even think it's controllable. Honestly, as a man, it's not controllable. So if you ask him, if a woman always says to a man, "Hey, you never open up to me, you never open up to me," and he finally opens up to you and he says some wild shit, don't hold it against him, because it's not necessarily just that topic of the conversation. It's just the fact of learning how to even deal with and express and verbalize your emotions. Because just like you were saying, as kids, I couldn't do that verbalization.
Right.
I couldn't. It was always man up, poke your chest out. No matter what. Even on your sad times, you can be sad by yourself. I remember my dad. I grew up with my dad in my life. Every day, every other day, I seen my daddy cry 2 times up until the time I was 20
And
years old.
mine cried 1 time, and that was when he had like a brain aneurysm.
Man, 2 times. I seen my daddy cry 2 times up to the age of 20. Once when his mama passed away, and then the second time, which was the craziest, and it made me, now that I say this, it makes me think about how desensitized I was in my feelings. The second time he cried was when I graduated Marine Corps boot camp. I never forget that they said dismissed, and everybody ran to the floor, and I could just see my mama, so I'm running towards my mama, and the next thing you know it, my daddy pushed my mama out the way, and he hugged me, crying. "Oh, I'm so proud of you, son. I'm so proud. I just went through Marine Corps boot camp." I'm like, "Get your hands off me and stop crying. Stand up and stick your chest out, boy." You know what I'm saying? So by the time I was ready to open up emotionally to me, I was closed off. Man, get off me crying. So life's experience and just growing up definitely affects how you deal with your emotions. And to open up and just to be able to talk about it, man, I'm telling you, it's something I haven't done for years. I can't even sit here and tell you. I've always been open about my emotions and feelings. Back in the day, and even sometimes recently, when it comes to dealing with emotions, I think before I'm willing to actually verbalize and have to deal with the response to my emotions, I'd just rather keep it to myself. It's selfish. It's a selfish thing, I know. But when you never really had to deal with those emotions on a daily basis and, respond to somebody just like that, that's just the natural effect for a man. It's a ball up.
Right.
So, but
Well,
I can handle it now somewhat.
I hope I'm saying this right. I think his name is pronounced Stanley. We're gonna just say Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson said your daddy was supposed to tell you that. I mean, mom was supposed to heal you, but dad was it's a cold world, son. Suck it up. Just in my opinion. He also said that that's what this generation is missing. The man showing tough love. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I think I understand where Mr. Johnson is coming from. But how can people do that in a way that it does not affect men long term or in a bad way to where they feel like there is no safe place to actually share how you feel? And the fact that y'all look at vulnerability as just complete weakness, that really makes me so angry because I feel like that's why men cheat, that's why men are mean or like, have anger issues, don't know how to handle, heartbreak or just life issues because they don't know how to effectively communicate how they would feel if growing up.
Now I do agree with him, in the beginning, but in the end, I didn't agree with that part. So I can say that. I also think that my generation now, people that are probably in their mid-30s, early 40s, something like that, as far as men, we do know how to express our feelings when it comes to our children. I can say that I know a lot more of my friends who are my age that are parents. They're, as men, they're real open, with everything about their kids. Especially in today's day and age, there's so much technology and everything's at a kid's fingertips. I feel like I'd much rather tell my child about it before I let her just go out in the world and let the world fill her head up with whatever. So, in my generation, it wasn't like that. My dad wasn't trying to say, "Hey, son, it's okay to cry. Put your head on your hell, nah," because he grew up in a tough world where he had to be a tough man. So I know, and now that I'm older, my dad's a baby now. As soon as he get a couple Coronas, he tell everybody he love him.
You know who reminds me of that? My uncle, Jerry. My uncle Jerry was the meanest. Oh, he was so mean growing up. And then he got shot, and then all of a sudden he was just like,
Change.
loving. And I was like, maybe that was like his wake up call to stop being so mean. Um, but it's funny you say that because now he's so loving in Uncle Jerry kind of way for sure. But just I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, man, there's emotions, and that was never a big thing in my household, in my whole family, anywhere, for real, anywhere. And literally, I can say it took me having to go to therapy to even be able to deal with my emotions. And I was talking to a chick, and we had been friends for years, so we was friends before anything. So that was why we got cool. I could talk to her about anything. But anytime she would want to talk about some emotional stuff, I just go mute. It's hard to make me shut up. It's hard to make me shut up. But as soon as you want to talk about feelings, I go up. Wouldn't have nothing to say. Huh?
I didn't say nothing. I was listening to you.
Yes, I said I just wouldn't have nothing to say, and it would feel like the right answer. Sometimes, and for a vast majority of the time, I felt like no answer was the right answer. Because if I tell you how I really feel, if I put my heart on the line, or if I put this on the line, I could get hurt. And dudes can't handle hurt like women. I don't care what nobody say, especially not hurt of the heart.
I get that. I do. So, do you think that men share their vulnerability with other men, like friends?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So,
Because when it comes to sharing that vulnerability with your friends, it's not really vulnerability. That's just your friends keeping it real with your homies. They're gonna be there for you no matter what. They got the same thing going on. So it's a lot easier for a man. And it's weird to say that, but it's a lot easier for a man to share that experience with another man versus a woman. Because again, you want to be prideful in front of your woman. You don't want your woman to think you're weak. I guess it's
but
okay.
do you now that you have, I want to say, come full circle, right? You've been around the world a little bit.
Oh yeah, most
You've
definitely.
matured a lot. Do you still think that women would look at that vulnerability as weakness now?
No, absolutely not. Women, now that I know what I know, women respect that about a man.
Yeah.
Women respect, like, a real woman will not look at a man who cries and go, "Oh, he's soft." They'll go, oh, "Okay, he really has feelings. He really has emotions. Things can hurt him. He isn't one." Because that's the worst thing for a woman, is to meet a man who doesn't care. If you
Yeah.
see a man open up certain parts of his heart, it'll actually give them a much better respect to you, from my experiences.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I agree with that. To be honest, on one hand, I don't want a super sensitive man, but I definitely want a man that is able to, communicate effectively what he's going through.
yeah, you can't cry about everything. Man, the dishwasher broke. Oh, what y'all do? You can't do that. You can't do that. You only can cry in certain situations.
That's true. Do you know? I tried to do like my research. They said over, oh geez, I think I lost it. Over 6 million men suffer from depression per year. I was like, what? It said male depression often goes undiagnosed. Men are more likely to report fatigue, irritability, loss of interest in work or hobbies rather than feel sadness or worthlessness. How important to you was therapy?
Woo, night and day. Therapy was beyond important to me, because when I started to go, the first thing that I had to learn before I could even express my feelings was learning that it was okay to even have those feelings.
Yeah.
Because it was plenty of times where you could ask me a question and say, "How do you feel about this?" And in my mind, I was giving you 1,001 answers, detailed to how temperature is. And when I come out my mouth, I'll be like, "I'm all right." So the therapy was huge, because it taught me that you don't necessarily have to feel vulnerable to express yourself. By saying this is going to make you feel better. By knowing that you're holding this in and you're actually getting out, it may not feel like it's going to help, but I guarantee you it helps. So just having someone there to teach me that. And I mean, it took me 3 therapists. I had to go to 3 different therapists before I even found somebody I was willing to talk to.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to go through 3 of them. The first one,
I've been through therapy, and I think it was just something that was so therapeutic about talking to someone that doesn't know you and that you can be unapologetically honest.
man,
I'm talking about completely honest. And for me, it unlocked a lot of trauma. Well, I'm not gonna say a lot, but it unlocked some trauma that I didn't even remember. It's crazy how the brain works. It will
Mm,
protect itself from certain things and, like, store it in other places of your brain so you don't have to deal with that kind of trauma. It's really, really crazy. We see y'all. Thank y'all so much for the love. So, Miss Keandra, we have Angie Boo Chantel say, what's up, y'all?
what's up, ladies?
But here is, I just, I don't understand, or help me understand why I think that men look at therapy as like a sign of, I think we grew up saying, put nobody in your business,
Man, that was
and
right.
so it's like, I'm not going to sit on nobody's couch and tell them all my problems.
That and as a man, it's your pride because you think to yourself, okay, who's this person to tell me I'm okay to feel like this? That was my initial thought when they even therapy was brought up to me. I'm like, no, I'm not going to talk to no stranger. One, two, they're not perfect either, so how they gonna tell me if my feelings are right or wrong? Three, I didn't learn this one until I actually started going through therapy. Is the key of it was to find somebody who I felt I could relate to. That was a huge factor in it for me.
Mr.
Was
Johnson said it's a trust factor. I
yeah,
agree.
yeah, it was just completely a trust factor and somebody who I felt I could relate to, and just like you said, someone who is non-judgmental and I could just be unapologetically me, and they'll just be like, okay, so what about? Have you thought about it from this standpoint, and how did this make you feel? But I tell you this, it wasn't all cake and ice cream, like you said. It brought up some stuff that I never thought about from a certain point of view until I was sitting there in that room having that conversation.
Yeah.
You
That
know,
I can definitely agree with.
man,
But the one thing I appreciated more than anything was my therapist. The first thing that she told me is it's going to be hard before it gets easy. It's going to be really, really hard. You're going to have some really uncomfortable conversations. And she was so right. But I believe that therapy saved my life because I had just reached a point, and I know this is about men, but I had just reached a point where I felt like I couldn't confide in anyone. And so I got there by the luck because I just didn't have nobody else to talk to be honest. Other than that, I was with the same mentality that you don't tell nobody your business, you just deal with it. And I think growing up black, we are, we self sabotage ourselves in some ways because we are taught you just hold all of that stuff in. And we
man,
don't, I think it's now that I've become an adult that I know what real depression is, or like, what real anxiety is. Um, and as a woman, I think that we handle it better. But for me, it's like, how do men handle that? Because, we're more vocal about how we feel. Y'all are
yeah.
not.
Now we bottle it up. We bottle it up, and when the bottle get full, we pour it in a bigger bottle. So
Okay, so before you got the help, duty, who did you turn to in those dark moments when you had them?
honestly, man, I only had probably two people in my corner. And I won't say I only had two people in my corner. There was only about two people that I felt like I could just completely open up to and say whatever I was going to say. And, if anything, they just going to be honest with me. That's one thing I can say about, I think that's another part of just growing up was, I never wanted to feel vulnerable to anybody at all. My one person was my mama. I never had to really feel vulnerable because that was my mama. She didn't see me butt naked all my life. So it don't get no more vulnerable than that. And then my other person was my cousin Chantel. Now, this is the thing about my vulnerability with my cousin Chantel. My cousin Chantel would force me to be vulnerable. She wouldn't even she'd back you in the corner and go, something's wrong. You about to tell me about it right now. And we're about to sit here and figure it out together. I don't care
It's
what time.
crazy that you say that because I swear she had just said that in the comment section that
What?
you share with her.
I'm telling you, cuz it's some of the hardest emotional points in my personal life. I could call my cousin Chantel, and it'd be 2 o'clock in the morning. She'd be like, "Man, what's up? Tell me, blah blah blah." And it got to a point where when I would really go through stuff, I knew I wouldn't talk to nobody But eventually I was gonna call her or she was gonna call me, and like I was gonna have to address whatever I was feeling. I could have been holding on to it for weeks, letting it get bottled up into me. But as soon as I heard from her, I'd be like, damn, all right, cuz man, this was going on, this how I feel. I'm really ready to snap. They're like, no, you can't snap, you gotta do this, you gotta think like this. What about this? What about that? You know, she really helped me kind of address feelings that I never wanted to address, that I kind of just wanted to play blank to and just say, oh, it's really question, the answer is C. And she'd go, but dude, you skip A and B.
Right.
You know, she helped keep my thought process on point. And I don't know why it was her. I don't know why it was her. It just was. I can't tell you what about her made me. And I think just because,
She's like that for all of us, though.
yeah,
I don't know.
like
She's a special kind of person.
Yeah, man. I never felt like she'll judge me. I never even tried to open up to her that deep, son. She just made it. It just happened. She just made me do it.
And I think that that's why, she's in the field that she's in. And for y'all that don't know, I don't know how you don't know my sister Chantel. If you don't know my sister Chantel, you definitely don't know me. But that's my older sister, and she is a mental health professional. I don't want to get it wrong. I know she's counseled people, but I think her actual title is social worker. Sissy, if I got it wrong, forgive me.
Man, she all the above. Counsel, social worker, spiritual therapist, everything.
For sure. Shout out to Moon Man Stamps, Chantel, Honeybee. I mean not Honeybee, Balon, your sister.
Nope, that's her. Shout out at Honeybee.
But I think that's who she is. I don't know how she got to be like that. I think that's just how she was born, to just be a caretaker for everybody. But that's so dope that you had someone, because I think that's so important.
But that's the thing, man. It's hard to even know you have someone. Even when you know you have someone as a dude, it's still hard to address them feelings. It's just I can't speak for every man, but I can speak for most men who are like, single men, grew up just, being the average man. Emotions aren't something that you just throw on the table. Especially, say you meet a woman, you don't want to throw on that you emotional. You like to cry and, all this and all that. Don't get me wrong. Even though now that I don't have no problem dealing with my emotions, I still only allow 2 cries a year. So I got to hold some of it in. You can't let it all out here. You got a 2 cry maximum a year.
Oh my God. So let me ask you this question. Have you ever suffered with depression?
Oh my God, yeah, I suffered with depression for years. I suffered with depression for years, and I fought dealing with my emotions so well that I didn't even know I was depressed. I thought I was just normal.
See? And that's what I think that is Ariane, my other sister, Ariane. Shout out to Yanni. Yanni is another mental health professional. She just had a Zoom on Facebook Live, and it was a panelist of really, really great doctors. And their topic was depression, which was so ironic, because I was like, how funny is that? That was literally the same thing that you and I were going to talk about on last week. So I think that it's a much needed discussion that we need to have. And I think that a lot of us, meaning men and women, don't even realize that we are depressed. We just think that that's normal, us just sad or whatever.
Just going through the motions.
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, I was so depressed. I didn't even know I was depressed. But that was the thing, was I was depressed. But even when I was depressed, no matter who you was, if you saw me, you always had a smile on my face. And I hate people used to always say the saying, but now I know it's true. And they go, the people who smile the most are some of the saddest people in the world, for real. The people you see with the most smile.
That's what they said about what was your boy's name that died from suicide, Mrs. Doubtfire?
Robin Williams.
They were saying that he made a living out of making people smile, because he was so. I was like, wow. I never thought of it like that. That's crazy.
Yeah. Man, it's just, and I think a portion of that just goes into, again, growing up knowing it's not okay to show those feelings. So, you don't just randomly become depressed one day. Your mind's kind of programmed to almost set you up for failure for depression. I'm taught my whole life, don't deal with your feelings, don't deal with your emotions, put that shit in a bottle, get a straw, suck it up, keep moving. Those are the keys to depression. Not addressing your feelings, having hurt built up, having anger built up, and not finding the ways to express it. That's the roadmap to straight depression. So, I have the best parents in the world. I know they weren't setting me up to purposely make me depressed as an adult, but in our generation and the way we were raised, that's the way it is. When you think of it now, and it's crazy.
I have a really, really important question. With the pandemic, do you think that has played a role in men and their mental health?
Oh yeah,
Kind of sort of like isolated and
oh man, absolutely, because like it really affected me to the point of where I had to, make a big scene about seeing a therapist. Because once I still go to therapy to this day. I don't have no reason to, thinking about that. Because once I found out what it does for my mental, it's no reason for me to stop now. I might well open all the way up. But so because of the pandemic, I had to start doing the virtual sessions. Like the Zooms. Because it was through the VA. They didn't want human contact. So it was a virtual sessions. And my therapist, we wouldn't even do video. We'd get on Zoom and just had a mics on. One, that's just stupid. I don't like talking on the phone, so I don't even want to do this. But that was my biggest issue. And she's like, well, how's everything going? You healthy? Yeah, I'm healthy. Everything's fine. What's your biggest problem? The biggest problem is the isolation. To me. The biggest problem is the isolation and sometimes the moments of silence and your mind just starts racing. I can't, so much stuff going on in my head. I can't even focus on one subject. I'm just thinking, what about this? What about that? What about that? And then I'm here by myself. Oh God, COVID played a huge thing. It played a big part of it, but luckily I know how to deal with it. So I just find other stuff to occupy my time. I picked up new hobbies. I got fucking kayaking. What?
I love kayaking. My arms don't like it, but I love
it. I cut up on a kayak. I got 2 of them now. I love it.
Oh Lord. But I think that is so key. I think that counseling will give you the necessary tools to actually be able to know how to deal with it, and it'll actually give you a tunnel to know when you're going there. Like when you're getting there, I actually know what's happening with myself. Like I know, okay, I'm not about to slip into a depression. I'm starting to feel like I don't want to talk to nobody. I want to shut everything down. And so it's like once you get the help, you know how to better manage your emotions and how to work around getting stuck in that pitfall.
That's what happened to me, because I ended up, doing these virtual sessions, and I started feeling those same emotional, depressing feelings coming back. So then I had to call them and say, hey, listen, I know y'all said it's hard to get an appointment in physically because of COVID, but I need to get some physical contact. These virtual sessions aren't working to me. I need to have face-to-face contact and interaction with somebody to talk about this, because otherwise, it's just not working for me. So sometimes just that face-to-face makes a huge difference. Now, there are people who can still get their point and their feelings across over the camera, which is no problem, nothing wrong to do. Just I felt I was being better served by, being there in person, going to a therapist's office and sitting there and talking to them, not just sitting in my bed.
That's because we're social beings, like we're social. That's just how we are. And so it's crazy. I think that's why people react the way that they react when they go to, like prison or something. You take them away from all of these things and you just put them in them, people lose their mind, because I don't think that we were bred to be like that. Shout out to you, Troy.
Shout out to Troy. Troy on here. What's the Troy?
He just
Hey, Troy. Troy is a good example of how I feel like dealing with emotions as a man in life is a generational thing. Because just like I was saying how my dad was with me as a child, I know Troy's dad was like that with him. All men. I know one of his uncle. Oh my God, even my uncle. Him and my uncle. My dad and his uncle. They the dudes I wish you would cry around. They clown you if you cry. They will clown. You better go do something. Man up. But So Troy was growing up like that to hold those emotions in and don't show those feelings. But Troy got 2 sons, and I know Troy talked to his sons about everything.
Yeah.
He don't necessarily sit there and say, "All right, son, come here and cry on my shoulder." But when one of his sons is crying, he's gonna talk to him. He's gonna address the feelings that they talk about. Why you even crying? What's this and what's that? So he's giving them a roadmap to know how to deal with their feelings, yet also be manly about it. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. So that's what I can say that I think is gonna change for this next generation. I hope. I know how one guy said earlier, a lot of that's missing in this generation. I don't agree that it's missing. I think that the guys in our age as fathers are doing an amazing job as far as trying to do the stuff that their parents didn't do, especially the dudes. Most dudes I know my age are open with their kids about everything. You got to be.
Here was one. I'm always losing my way, I swear. Oh, here is one. Okay, now looking back, do you think that I think that a lot of men cover their emotions by extracurricular activities, whether that is smoking weed or drinking or, like just doing something else to cope with not necessarily drugs like hardcore drugs, even though some may. But do you think that that's a way for them to deal with like their mental health?
It is a huge way. I got into doing triathlons, running, biking, swimming, getting out, being active. Like literally every weekend before COVID, I'm doing a race. I do stuff to keep my mind occupied, so I don't have that time to sit down and be hard on myself or say this isn't working, this isn't working. I'm more focused on making this work, making that work. I love to get out and be active. I love to volunteer. I love to just do stuff to keep my mind focused and positive, because otherwise, if I just sit around, I'm just feel like I'm not doing enough, and then I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing it right, and then I ain't doing it right. Damn, what I'm doing? I'm just fucking up. And so yeah, extracurricular activities are a huge part of your mental health, because it just keeps you positive, keeps you in that positive mind frame. I always like to try new stuff just so I can congratulate myself on learning something new. So I can always be like, okay, you did this and you did this, and that was a great job. Versus just sitting around being like, damn, man, you just sitting there letting your life waste away. You're gonna never do nothing. Like, I don't know. That's just me as a dude. I can't speak for every dude, but I feel like if I sit around too long, I'm doing something wrong. I know it's all right to chill, but that's just some of my mental in me. You know, I'm always trying to do the next thing.
So I think a lot of people have a tough time with the word mental health, like or depression. Do you think that depression is a form of mental health?
Absolutely, absolutely, it is. And I say that just because when you're depressed, you're not. It's not a certain time frame that you're depressed. You can have days where you wake up feeling, the hardest morning of depression you've ever felt, and then just go have a conversation with somebody, and then at lunchtime you're happy, and then by dinner time something happened, and then you right back depressed. So your mental health is just like your physical health. The way you take care of your body is the way that your body reacts to things. So
That was a
your
good one.
brain needs to be the same way. If you're not properly taking care of your brain and using every portion of it, if you're only using the happy side, the weak side, the sad side is going to get messed up. You're going to be weaker there. You're not going to know how to address them. So you got to treat your body just like your mind. I hate to say it, but it's so true. And they're
Yeah.
connected. Yeah,
Chantel said depression is a mental illness. It is,
yeah.
but I think that people don't like to say they're depressed because they know it's a mental illness. And in our minds, we're not mental. Like we don't have mental illness. We just not feeling
You a
our best.
thousand you are 1,000% right about that. I remember when I first started going to counseling about depression, and I'll never forget Jeffrey said, "So how's it feel how do you feel being depressed?" I'm like, I'm not depressed. He's like, well, I'm saying from our conversations, you're depressed. I just want to know, when I say that to you, how does it feel knowing that you're depressed? My first response was, I'm not depressed, and you better not write that down. Because in my mind, that's what I thought. Mental health, depression. AKA, everybody gonna think he's fucking crazy.
I'm laughing, but that's so true.
It's
That's
true.
so true.
I'm telling you, so true. That was the first thought when they told me anything about depression. No, I'm not depressed. I'm not. Even though by then I knew I was, but I still was not going to tell them because there is a stigma of mental health.
Yeah.
But there comes a time where you just got to say, man, fuck a stigma. I'm worried about my mental health. If this is going to better my mental health, you could title me whatever the fuck you want. Just don't call me fat. You can call me whatever you want. Call me mental health, call me crazy, call me depressed. Whatever's gonna get me on a better path in life mentally, hey, I'm that. I'll be that. But
So,
initially, I know you couldn't do it. I'm telling you, that dude said, yes, I still being depressed. Depressed, boy, anybody depressed? What you talking about? You see me smiling? Don't write that down, sir. Don't write. Let me see your notes. let me see
you more worried about what the doctor's writing down than
man.
you actually getting the help you
I'm
need.
not trying to see it in my medical records. So 6 years of depression. I'm like, oh man, is it?
He's a whole nut case, huh?
Yeah. I've been a whole flak jacket. I told y'all I'm not depressed. So
You crazy. So,
man,
okay, I know you said earlier, of course, I know because you're my cousin that you grew up with your dad. But for like the men out there that didn't grow up with their dad, I wonder how or who they're turning to learn those coping skills. But from the sound of it, Uncle Robert didn't give you the right kind, like you said, Troy is giving to his son. So it's
man,
like, I don't know if that would have helped them.
man, it would have definitely helped. It would have to me. Now that I say that, now that I'm older, it would have definitely helped because once I, grew up and say I was 19, 20, I didn't truly know how to deal with my feelings. I didn't. At least not the sensitive shit. It was just suck it up, bottle it up. It never happened. And if it did happen, don't tell nobody about it. That was just it. It was don't ask, don't tell. If you're sad, keep that shit to yourself. People want to see you happy. Nobody wants to see you sad. Nobody cares about your feelings. Nobody cares about your emotions. Your mama care. That's what my mom used to always say. Your mama care though. Yeah.
Troy just said, but I'm giving my son what I had to find out myself.
Exactly. And because
So
like that's how Troy was. Troy dad was around, but I know Troy had an uncle who had that same mentality. So even with men who didn't grow up with their dads in their lives, you know, they didn't have a pillar to say this is how men react to their feelings. They just kind of had to get it how they live. You had to just learn from life's experiences. Some of us took that in a positive way and went like in Troy's route and said, well, I wasn't taught this and I wasn't spoken to like this as a kid, so I'm gonna make sure I talk to my kids like that. Or some of us said, I was taught don't have no feelings, I'm gonna teach my kids the same way.
and here is
So
the thing though,
there's still
I honestly think that without having the right tools to be vulnerable, you can't really be loved. Because
man,
you shut
now
yourself
listen,
off from so much.
that is a huge thing that I learned. And I felt so bad for all my lady friends that I had prior to that was because then I learned, I learned in therapy
Or
that
not it was just lady
I
friends.
can't love anybody.
Y'all caught that,
I can't love, huh?
huh?
Well, I just mean in general.
No,
Not
I'm
like I
just
was.
being messy.
I can't love someone if I don't. Or how can I expect someone to love me if I don't love myself? Like I didn't truly 1,000% even love me for me. So how was I able to? How can I get in a relationship and expect somebody to really love me for me? I would never trust a chick out there. Right? Oh, I love everything about you. Shut up. I don't even love everything about me. How you love everything about me? And I don't even love it. So that
But
depression
I think
affects
that a
you.
lot of men are not willing to be honest in that way and say that. Because
Yeah,
they
nah,
really believe that they have self-love.
man.
And I thought I knew it. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until recent that I found out that now I know what self-love is, right? But for years and years and years and years, I didn't know. And if you ask me, I'd be like, yeah, I love myself. But I really didn't. Because
Yep.
so much of how I was feeling was codependent on other people. Like, I got my love for them. So like they were, more like puppet my emotions, and that is not self-love. Self-love is when you don't need anyone. You can maintain and be healthy and happy all by yourself.
Yeah.
That was so hard for me to do. Um, that was hard.
Oh, I know it. I'm with you there. That's when
I talked to a friend, and that friend said to me that men cry. They just do it alone. That made me so sad.
that's
Because
true.
I remember the time when you said your cousin had passed and you were in the garage and you didn't want, your lady friend at that time to know
Yep.
that. And I was like, that just makes me so sad that even in a moment of sheer grief or, just
I
sadness,
still talk to myself.
you
I don't want
still
nobody.
didn't
Yep.
find it like, okay to have those emotions. That's crazy to me.
Yep. But that's the way I was taught in my head to deal with emotions. Deal with it by yourself in a corner and don't let nobody see it. Put the blinds up, close the doors, everything. Now I know it's okay, but I still really won't. You ain't gonna catch me crying in public. You just not. I'm sorry. I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect with dealing with my emotions, so I can't sit here and tell you, baby, if I'm crying, I'll just sit here and cry in front of you. Oh no, that's still not gonna happen. So it's still a work in progress. I don't have it all down. I still have my depression days, where I'm not the happiest. Well, but when I do that, at least now, I've got my mind trained and say, all right, hold up, you're not feeling as good as you're supposed to feel. Let's do something to get that mind, the juices back circling. Let's get something to get you back in that positive vibe. If something's wrong, I'm gonna address it right now, though. I'm not gonna sit there and say, all right, I'm gonna do something to get my mind off of it. I'm gonna actually address it right then and there because that's one of the worst things you could do. With I feel like as a man,
I'm gonna be her bodyguard. I think John.
Oh yeah, it's bottling your feelings up, man. You bottle those feelings up, you can end up anywhere.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to, oh, that was the question that I wanted to ask. So like, well, you don't know. I hate that I say that, but in my head, I be saying, but anyways,
Mm-hmm.
there is this woman, and I talked about her on another podcast or on another episode, Brene Brown. I just live for her. She is everything, right? And so she talks a lot about vulnerability and she breaks it down for us if you don't know. And I think that that's something, a segment that everyone, male and female, should just watch because both sexes can benefit from listening to what she has to say. But she has this unique story about the story that we're telling ourselves. Do men tell themselves stories?
Oh God, yes. Oh, I'll tell myself a story just so I don't have to get to addressing my feelings about it. It could be an emotional scene that I know needs to be addressed and something needs to be said about it. But in my head, I could be like, all right, you're not sad, so whatever that was, just don't deal with it. Just act like it didn't happen. This is what really happened. Just so I'll put myself in the left lane, just so I don't have to deal with. I know what's right, and it's a coping mechanism, and I think it's a protective mechanism. Like I said, men aren't used to dealing with them feelings. So when you get in danger, I'm gonna put up my wall to protect myself. So no. I'm gonna go this way. This is the way where no feelings are. So that's the way I'm gonna go.
I wonder if that has anything to do with our past. And when I say our past, I'm talking about slavery times and times way back then. If like that was a way for because I think that things are
Yeah,
passed down generational, right? And I think
yeah.
that they just not able to express their feelings, and then that was just passed down from generation to generation
And
to generation. And people like Troy are changing those generational curses, which is
absolutely.
he's not teaching his children to just bottle everything up, but allowing them to express themselves and also making sure that they have a certain type of toughness with it.
Yeah, and just like you just said, I doubly, it could root from slavery because you got to think, as slaves, black men, the main goal for the slave master was to make the black man submit, and the strongest of the strongest slaves would not submit. That was the goal, to not show any emotions, to not cry, to not show any weakness. They were being fucking tortured.
Yeah.
And the main goal of them was to just stand there and be tortured. And we've carried that for hundreds of years. You know, we're not being physically tortured on a regular as much anymore, but there's still a lot of mental side effects to that. And you don't want to be mentally tortured. You don't want to show anybody that you can be hurt with words, that feelings could actually hurt you. Like, you don't want that. You want people to think you're a solid rock and nothing you can do can affect you. But, you know, that's
and
not
that's,
true.
I think, the stupidest thing. The sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt. Words hurt from people that you care about.
Words get you slapped. That's what I learned. Sticks and stones may break my bones. Words get your tires cut. But watch out what you're doing. Watch what you're doing.
So who would you give, besides yourself, who would you give credit for as far as helping you to deal with your emotions? Was it a coach? Was it I mean, I heard you say your mom. Was it God? Was it your father? Like, who do you think helped guide you along that way?
Oof. Man. I'll say that I had a couple people help guide me along the way to actually learning how to, you know, deal with my emotions and stuff, you know. So, but I say the main person is myself. That was the hardest person, was me saying it's okay to have these feelings. It's okay to talk to these people about these things. You know, I had a good 4 or 5 people in my corner who would be like, hey man, if something's wrong, you know, you can talk to me about it. And, you know, I help you any way that I can help you. If something's wrong, just let me know.
Yeah.
But then I have myself saying, nah, I'm straight.
That
But
pride.
wrong. Something was wrong. Inside, I'm screaming, I'm like, somebody help me. Shit, something
That's
help
that
me.
pride.
And I'm like, nah, I'm straight. You know, you come by and talk to me anytime. I'm cool. But another person that really helped me, and he still helped me in times where I just got random shit to talk about, is like my brother-in-law Troy. And he don't judge. He gonna judge, but he gonna judge in like a brother-in-law shit talking kind of way. He ain't really gonna judge. He'll try to make light of it. He'll try to make light of it, and then he'll tell you his true situation. I think the biggest factor of men dealing with mental health and dealing with their emotions and dealing with depressions is finding people who are somewhat like-minded of them, or more of a non-judgmental type person, somebody that you can trust.
Yeah.
You know, because that's the biggest thing of a man being vulnerable, is you've got to trust being vulnerable with that person. Because if you get too vulnerable, somebody can hang you by the neck.
Yeah.
You know, you can't flip it. And I don't want to feel like that with everybody. I won't feel like that with everybody. I can't allow it. That's just not me. But I've got those certain, like I said, I got those certain 4 or 5 people that I can talk to. Like, say, man, what you think about this? Or, you know, this shit got me tripping out right now. Tell me I'm tripping. You know, and you just can't do that with everybody. You can't do that with everybody. I say I can do that with Troy, but I've known Troy for 10, 20 years. We've been through a lot of stuff together, a lot of different situations together. He's like-minded like me, but I know he doesn't have the same mind frame as me. So he's going to give me, I can say, man, this is what happened. And he'll be like, nah, man, this is what really happened. You know, let me tell you what really happened, bro. You're thinking this has happened, and this is what really happened. But man.
And so, well, as we come to a closing, as women, what do you think that we can do to make things better for y'all, to be vulnerable, to accept?
Be understanding.
That,
Be very understanding. Before you ask a man to open up to you and just give him his heart, know his background. You know, kind of know him. Have an understanding of him. And if you know that he's one of those dudes that's not really an emotional roller coaster, he can just open up and tell you every feeling, you got to have patience. You got to understand that this man could love you with all his heart. He could thank you the bee's knees. And all you want him to do is open up to you, and he won't. You just got to understand it's not you. It's not because he doesn't love you, because he doesn't know how to. That's like putting a kid on a bike and saying, go ride 6 miles, but you never showed him how to even use the training wheel, how to take the training wheels off. You know, understand that if you're with somebody that doesn't know how to deal with their emotions, instead of you expecting them to just show them, try to be there to help them. Try to be there to help them deal with them. Show them it's all right to do this. Start this conversation. Show them some vulnerability. Let them know you're able to do it too. But don't just put that pressure on. You got to open up. You got to talk. I can't do this if you can't talk. Like you just can't do that. It's not something that happens overnight, and it's definitely something you got to be willing to put some work in to get.
I swear, I don't know what it is. Every time we do the podcast, my eyes go to just flipping out.
I make you cry, girl. I'm emotional. I make you cry. I cry.
No, and for people that don't know, I'm going to leave it in the comment section. My sister Ariane Washington is a licensed professional. She has her own private practice where she deals with depression, suicide, anxiety, life stresses, all of that good stuff. And I'll leave her information in the comment section. I'm going to close this off with a Brene Brown quote. She said, vulnerability is not weakness. It's the courage to show up and be real when you don't know the outcome or what people think. So I thank you so much for trusting me with this topic and for being vulnerable. I know that this is probably not going to get all of the views, but I thought it was a topic that was well needed, that we needed to talk about, especially with the pandemic going on. I think that I want our men to know that there are avenues to get help. Their feelings matter. And that, I'm just praying for them. I don't want them to feel like they're less than. You're definitely not. I look at you as so much stronger for being able to, express yourself on a social platform like this, knowing that this is going out to everybody, and to hold your head high and still say, I did it. And, I've come out on the other end. And I hope that this encourages a man somewhere to seek some help if he needs it, and not to always feel like he has to bottle all of that up inside. This is great. I'm again, thank you so much, because you were so open-minded. You didn't know what I was going to ask you. You just was like, let's just do it.
I'm nervous.
And we're not doing this reviews. We're doing this to touch somebody, to be able to let them know that everything is not just so relationship based, even though that's, like the foundation of what we mostly talk about. Sometimes it's okay to deal with some real issues. And this is great. I appreciate that. Y'all, if y'all are watching this on Facebook, of course you are. We're streaming live on Facebook. That was dumb, but don't judge me. Like and share. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the red subscribe button. Turn notifications on so you can be notified when we post. But no matter what, tune in next Thursday. We're gonna bring something crazy. I'm going to go ahead and put Duty on the spot. It's Duty's week to pick.
Let's do it. Yes. Oh, it's going down. It's going down next week. Bring wine.
Thank you so much to the men that tuned in and chimed in and shared y'all comments and y'all thoughts. We definitely appreciate it. And until next Thursday, Toy Talks with Duty podcast. Good night, cousin. Love you.
Good night, guys.